So the show is called Welcome Back Ye Anunnaki, and it's loosely based on an alternative origin myth of the human species. The author Zecharia Sitchin wrote a book where he claimed that the human species was genetically engineered by a race of aliens called the Anunnaki. And this happened, thousands and thousands of years ago. But according to Sitchin, the Anunnaki come from a planet called Nibiru, which is on an elliptical orbit and re-enters the solar system every 3,600 years. Sitchin predicted that the Anunnaki and their planet Nibiru would re-enter our solar system roughly around the winter solstice of 2012. So this roughly corresponds, of course, with the Mayan end date, the end date of the Mayan calendar, and other kind of apocalypse prophecies. So according to Sitchin, all of this comes from the Sumerians, the Sumerian mythologies and clay tablets and this kind of thing. So that's his basis for the claim. What we decided to do was to kind of engage this in a spirit of home and hospitality, asking the question of, well, what happens if the aliens do come back? Where are they going to stay? How are we going to interact with them? And so we put out a call to artists saying, how would you host an Anunnaki visitor on their return to Earth? And the show is comprised of 18 different artistic responses to that general question. The artists really, a lot of the artists have responded in very different ways. So we've got an exhibition that sort of, on the surface, visually, looks really sort of eclectic, right? There's a lot of very, very different artwork here. What they all really have in common is the artists creatively thinking through what it would mean to engage with this story of the ancient aliens. So some artists have really engaged much more with the concept of aliens themselves. For instance, Ella Morton had a series of intergalactic calling cards made. So there's a number on the back where you can dial, and you get a voice machine where you can leave a message for the Anunnaki. Right, it's sort of an interactive piece. Other artists have engaged a little bit more with the idea of home or hospitality. Like, what would it mean to open your home to an alien? For instance, Marianne McTrow, one of the artists who decided she was going to host a potluck dinner. Right, so we've had a potluck in the context of the opening, but this is really an art project where people were invited to bring their own offerings and contribute to this event that was the artist's concept for the project. And then really, a sort of third stream would be artists who have engaged instead with the idea of kind of, well, I don't know, like homestays, I suppose, or how you would support somebody, how you would help them recover from a long journey. You're like really engaged with that idea that, well, when we've traveled a long distance, we're tired. How do we recover from that? And how could we help the Anunnaki recover when they sort of arrived on Earth? And two really probably, well, definitely very striking pieces in the show. One by a pair of artists from Lethbridge, Cindy Baker and Megan Moorman, who put together a concept for what they call Ben's Brothel, which is, really a place where the Anunnaki can come and be serviced by human women, right? And a sort of flip side, but an equal sort of spirit of recovery, a piece by Serena Kataoka, where she's built a sensory deprivation chamber, where, according to the way she responded to the call, a sensory deprivation chamber is this wonderful place for kind of recovering your sense of orientation after a long trip, right? Imagining that the Anunnaki would come to Earth and really be bombarded by all of the electric lights that weren't here when they were here last time, right? And so to provide a sort of alternative to the, very lit up world in which we live by building a sensory deprivation chamber. Now, the way that the piece is presented is she's in Northern Ontario, so she's built this sensory deprivation chamber and put a video camera and microphone inside it, and we've got a live stream from the inside of the sensory deprivation chamber available for people to look at in the gallery. So these are just some of the ways in which various artists have chosen to respond to the theme.